You may have some ideas about the workplace in China and think it's similar to other places. But in fact, that's only one side of what you see from the outside. Over the past 22 years, I've gone from working in factories to working in offices and later even started my own business. I've experienced exhaustion and loneliness as well as hope and setbacks. Hello everyone, I'm John, an ordinary man living and working in Guangdong. Today, I want to take you into my world so you can see the real life of an ordinary working class man in China and some of the unfortunate experiences I've had in my career over the years. I'm 40 years old. I started working when I was 18, and now I've spent 22 years struggling in the workplace. During this time, I worked for 7 different companies, and I also had one attempt at starting my own business. So in total, I worked in 8 different places. If I had to summarize my career, I would say it has been a failure. If we go back more than 20 years, like many other people, I was full of enthusiasm and hope for the future. I thought I could find an easy job, but reality turned out to be very different. At that time, I entered the manufacturing industry, specifically the low-end production sector. Every day, the work environment was filled with the roar of machines, dust, oil stains, and the lingering smell of sweat. For years, this was almost how I spent every single day. So let me ask you, what kind of work do you do? Have you worked in manufacturing? Do you like your current job? If you do, please cherish it. Over these 22 years, I've worked in many different roles, including technical position, management, and sales. I've met many people and seen all kinds of things. Some were good and some were not so good. Some people were kind and some were cunning. Sometimes I felt a lot of pain and even loneliness. At other times, I still felt that life was full of hope. In China, many people say you shouldn't enter the manufacturing industry because it's often associated with low pay and hard work. In fact, manufacturing factories usually run 24 hours a day. Some factories operate with 2 shifts or 3 shifts. Some have only daytime shift, but almost all factories involve overtime. I often work 12 hours a day, sometimes even 14 hours. For a period of time, I also work night shift. The hardest time during night shift was between 2 am and 6 am. At that time, I felt like a phone with only 1% battery left, still running, but ready to shut down at any moment. During these 22 years, I often received sudden assignments from my bosses. It felt almost like military training. You always had to be ready to move at any moment. Many times, business dinners were also a heavy burden. Whenever people gathered for meals, drinking was almost mandatory. Even if you were already exhausted and didn't want to drink, you still had to force yourself to have a glass for the sake of business. Sometimes you had to keep drinking until the very end. I haven't had any alcohol for more than a year now. At the beginning of 2015, I suddenly felt severe stomach pain. After going to the hospital, the diagnosis was pancreatitis. The doctor told me it would be best not to drink alcohol anymore. That illness made me realize that life is unpredictable and health is the most important thing. Since then, no matter how people try to persuade me, I haven't touched a drop of alcohol. Before 2019, I have been working in Shenzhen. It is one of China's major metropolitan cities, full of skyscrapers, busy streets, and convenient transportation, attracting a huge number of young people. If you visit China as a tourist, I believe you would enjoy a city like that. But now I live in a more remote place on the outskirts of the city. There are no tall skyscrapers here, only rows of residential buildings and manufacturing factories. At the end of 2019, at the invitation of a friend, I left Shenzhen and came to Huizhou to start a business. To be honest, it was a huge challenge for me because I didn't have technical knowledge. My experience was mainly in business development. We mainly produce small mechanical equipment. But when the pandemic broke out, our company was hit very hard. After struggling to keep the business alive for 3 difficult years, I finally had to admit failure and lost all my savings. For someone like me who comes from a rural family, what does failure mean? It means you have to start all over again. So I found another job, the one I have now. I can say that I love it, but at least it allows me to support myself. In 2023, I got married. In 2024, our child was born. Time passes very quickly. Now he is already 1.5 years old. My wife used to have a stable job, but after our child was born, she quit and became a full-time mother. Because our parents cannot help take care of the baby, we have to handle everything ourselves. In my small family, I am the only source of income. I am very grateful to my wife. She has made great sacrifice for our family. I also hope that one day she can return to the workplace because a woman's value is not only about taking care of the family and doing housework, she also has her own value. Since having a child, the pressure on our family has become even greater. That is also the reason why I started this YouTube channel. I want to share my work, my life, and the experiences behind them. This is my current life. Maybe it's a little heavy, but it is real. In your life, have you ever experienced moment when you felt physically and mentally exhausted, confused about the future, yet still had no choice but to keep going? If you're willing, feel free to share your story in the comments. I'm John. See you next time.